Hi guys, today's topic is going to be over rational numbers. Now please keep in mind this video is just informative. I'm not going to give as many examples as I would in the classroom, but for those of you, this will definitely help those of you that were either absent on the day of me teaching rational numbers, or for those of you that want to get ahead and get a preview of it. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. The words are rational numbers. So let me go ahead and emphasize on the word ratio here. Rational numbers has the word ratio, and that's basically what a rational number is. It is any number that can be written as a ratio or as a fraction, because that's how a ratio looks. So if I can make a number look like a fraction or a ratio, it is called irrational numbers. So let's begin with some examples. Here, I have examples of rational numbers, and they have 1/2, 75/100, 1 whole, 2 wholes, 2 and 12/100, and -6 and 6/10. So I'm going to explain why those are considered rational numbers. Let's keep in mind, I'm going to reiterate the word rational numbers. I'm going to reiterate the definition. Rational numbers, again, is any number that can be written as a fraction, where the denominator cannot be 0. So let me give you first an example of what is not a rational number. 5/0. This looks like a fraction, however, it is not, because the denominator is 0, meaning the total is 0. How can you have 5 parts out of 0? That's non-existent. So it's not a rational number. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. Let me get rid of that. Let's begin with the first example. 1/2. Does that look like a ratio or a fraction? Yes, it does. So it's already a rational number. 75/100. Now, many of you are going to say, well, that's a decimal, Miss Benjamin. Yes, it is. But can we make it look like a fraction or a ratio? Well, of course. How do you write 75/100 as a fraction? Just the way you read it. 75/100. 75/100. Now I can simplify. They're both divisible by 25. Okay, so 75 divided by 25 is 3. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So, is 75/100 a rational number, Yes, it is, because I made this decimal look like a fraction. Therefore, it's a rational number. Now let's continue on with 1 whole. 1 is a whole number. Can I make a whole number look like a fraction? Yes. 1/1. Think about it. If I have one piece of Hershey's candy and I split it into one piece, it's one whole piece, right? So 1/1, when the numerator and denominator are the same, it's still equal to 1 whole. But did I make this whole number look like a ratio or a fraction? Yes. Let's look at the second example. 2 whole. What's a whole number? I can make it look as a fraction by writing 2/1. Okay. Here's the picture. I have 2 wholes, and they're separated into 1. So there you go. I made this whole number look like a fraction. Now, the next one has a whole number and a decimal. It is read as in 2 and 12/100. Now, if I want to write that as a fraction, it would be 2 wholes and 12/100. Now, you can argue with me and say, well, Miss Benjamin, you said that a rational number is any number that looks like a fraction or a ratio. However, this has a whole number, so it's a mixed number, not a fraction. Well, you're correct, but can we make a mixed number look like a fraction? Yes, remember going around the world? 2 times 100 is 200. 100 plus 12 is, 200 plus 12 is 212. And remember, denominator stays the same. So in the end, I went from a decimal with a whole number all the way to a number that looks like a fraction or a ratio. Therefore, it is a rational number. Now, what difference do you notice with this example? -6 and 6/10. What do you notice that's different from this number and all the other numbers here? Well, some of you may have guessed it correctly. The difference is that here I have a negative number. And a negative number, guys, is a number less than 0. But it still has the same rules. I can read it, -6 and 6/10. Well, Ms. Benjamin, that's a mixed number, not necessarily a fraction. Well, let's go around the world. Same situation. -10 times 6. 10 times -6 is -60. Plus the 6 is -66. Over, remember, denominator stays the same. I'm going to go once again from the beginning. Did I make this decimal, a negative decimal, into a fraction? Yes. If I can make it look like a fraction or a ratio, it is called a rational number. Remember, I'm going to write it again. Guys, I am one person that repeats herself over and over. So get used to it, but I promise it's going to help. Okay? Rational number. What word did I say we were going to focus on? Ratio. If I can make it look like a ratio or a fraction, because they're the same thing, if I can make it look like a ratio or a fraction, it is considered a rational number. Now let's go over some examples that were not given in that little rectangular picture. Let's say -8. Can I make -8 look like a ratio or a fraction? Sure. By writing -8 over 1. Let's say 4 and 1/2. Remember, 4 and 1/2 is a mixed number, not necessarily a fraction. But can I turn that mixed number into a fraction? Can I make it look like a fraction or a ratio? Yes. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. Remember, denominator stays the same. So did I make it look like a fraction or a ratio? Check. How about negative 5/10? Okay, well, can I make this decimal look like a fraction? Sure. 5/10. All I have to do is simplify. They're both divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. That's in simplest form. Was I able to convert this decimal into a ratio or a fraction? Check. How about 7/8? Well, it's already in the form of a ratio or fraction. So that's automatically a given. Let's say I have -5. Can I make that look like a ratio or a fraction? Well, I can write -5 over 1. And it looks like a fraction. So there we go. That is what a rational number is. So now let's quickly discuss this Venn diagram that we have here. Whole numbers are numbers greater than 0 without fractions or decimals. So whole numbers would be like 3 wholes, 4 wholes, 10 wholes, 15 wholes, 300 wholes, 1,000 whole. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of whole numbers. Integers are negative or positive whole numbers. So integers are negative or positive whole numbers, such as -3, +3, -5, +5, 12, -12, 4, -4. I'm going to say this again. Integers are negative and positive whole numbers. Okay, so I can write a number and its opposite. Those are integers. And rational numbers are any numbers that can look as a fraction. Negative 3 can look as a fraction if I write it as negative 3 over 1. 12 can look as a fraction if I write 12 over 1. 5/10. Sorry, let me get that back. 5/10 can look as a fraction if I write it like that. 3/4 can look like a fraction because it's already a fraction. All right, so I know it's kind of sloppy here, guys. Bear with me. But if you look at it, whole numbers are all positive numbers, bigger than 0. Okay, and whole numbers don't have decimals and they don't have fractions. Integers, if you look at the picture, is a number and its opposite. Remember, for example, I have 3 and negative 3, 4 and negative 4, negative 5 and positive 5, negative 12 and positive 12. So integers are both positive and negative whole numbers. And rational numbers are any numbers that can look as a ratio or a fraction. I know I've said that many times. So make sure that you understand this Venn diagram. Rational numbers include integers. Rational numbers include whole numbers. But rational numbers also include fractions and decimals. Integers don't include fractions and decimals. Whole numbers don't include fractions and decimals. I hope this video helped most of you guys, a little bit at least. Make sure for those of you that previewed this video before coming to class, come to class with questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. This is again the topic for today. Rational numbers. What word are we focusing on? Ratio. And ratio is any number that can look like a fraction. So if I can make it look like a fraction, it's a rational number. However, I don't know if I mentioned this in the video earlier or not, but my denominator down, denominator down. Keep that in mind. The denominator cannot be 0. So I can't have 5 over 0. That's not a rational number. Okay, if the denominator is 0, it is not a rational number. I just want to clarify that. I'm not sure if I mentioned it early in the video. Outside of that, guys, I hope that this helped you. Have a great day.